This was almost exactly 1 year ago from today. I was 22 years old, I had just gotten a college degree, and I had a job lined up as a data analyst. I was ready to begin my journey to financial freedom, which I hoped to reach before I turned 30 years old. It's been a year since then. I just turned 23 last week, and I thought it would be a good time to see if I'm actually on track to retire by 30 or not. But before I get into what my net worth is or whether I'm actually on track to retire by 30, we need to talk about what it actually takes to retire early. Part 1. 25 is a magic number. History is no guarantee of the future, but it might help you calibrate your expectations. That's exactly what 3 professors from Trinity University set out to do when they began research into what would eventually become known as the Trinity Study. The result of their research was the famous 4% rule, which says that you need 25 times your annual expenses to be financially independent. This is just a rule of thumb, and I have an entire video dedicated to the 4% rule if you want more details. But the basic idea is that if you have a $1 million portfolio, you could withdraw $40,000 every year adjusted for inflation without ever depleting your nest egg. To see why this is so important, we need to reverse that calculation. If you can live on $40,000 every year, then that means you need $1 million to retire. To calculate how much you need to retire, all you need to do is multiply your annual expenses by 25. And the 4% rule isn't perfect, but it's good enough for my purposes. It gives a good initial guess for how much you might need to retire. Part 2. Knowing yourself. To actually use the 4% rule for your personal finances, you have to actually know what you spend every year. Personally, I track every single penny I spend. Since I moved to Northern Virginia, I've spent $16,005.95. But that isn't really the full picture because it hasn't quite been a full year since I moved out on my own. But even when I project out to a full 12 months, I'm still on track to only spend $17,461.04. Given that the cost of living for a single adult in my area is $57,000 a year, that's not bad. Either way, now that I know what I spend every year, I can actually do the math to figure out what I would need to retire. And using the 4% rule, I just multiply my expenses by 25, and I see that I need $436,526 to retire. And to play it safe, I might even round up a little bit. Just in case my expenses go up over time, I'll assume that I spend $20,000 every year, which should give me plenty of leeway. And that means, multiplying by 25, I need a nice round $500,000 to call myself financially independent. So, am I on track? Part 3. Your personal snapshot. So with a target of $500,000 by the time I'm 30, it's time to look at what I've managed to save by the time I'm 23. First up is cash. I try to keep around $2,500 to $4,500 in my bank account, and when I last checked, my account balance was $3,260. Second is my personal investment account. Personally, anything that isn't part of my emergency reserve is invested in the stock market. That's because to reach financial freedom by the time I turn 30, I really need my money making money. Last year, I started work over halfway through the year, but I still decided to max out my retirement accounts. That means I didn't have any leftover money to invest in this personal account. But since the start of the year, I've been able to make this a habit. I have a scheduled deposit of $500 every single week, and I add more as I can. Right now, this account is $12,498. But given the timing of when I started to invest, this money has not benefited from market returns. I've actually deposited $12,500 so far. But I'm optimistic that over time, this will start to grow. The last thing we need to talk about is retirement accounts, and there's some important distinctions here. Right now, I have 3 different retirement accounts: a Roth 401k, a Roth IRA, and a traditional 401k. Last year, I decided to max out my Roth 401k, which at the time had a contribution limit of $20,500 per year. Since I didn't start working until middle of July, that meant I was contributing 55% of my paycheck just to this account. The contribution limit has actually increased a little bit this year, and at the time of making this video, this account has $29,500
$434. And if you're curious, about $27,200 of that is direct contribution, whereas the other $2,200 is through investment returns. The second type of retirement account I have is a Roth IRA, and last year I maxed out the contribution of $6,000. This account has actually done pretty well for me and has grown to $6,630 at the time of making this video. And unless a ton of you smash the like and subscribe button on these YouTube videos, I'll still be under the income limit this year for the Roth IRA contributions. That means I'll contribute another $6,500 this year. The cool thing about these Roth accounts, both the Roth 401k and the Roth IRA, is that they're already taxed. That means all of the money in them is mine to keep, even the investment returns. That said, there are some limitations to actually withdrawing this money until you're 59 and a half years old. I might make another video on this topic if enough people are interested. The last type of retirement account I have is a traditional 401k. While I prefer to give my contributions to a Roth 401k, my company has a very generous contribution matching program. Getting an employer match is basically getting paid to save, which is a ridiculously good deal. But all of the company's contributions go to a traditional 401k, which is pre-tax. That means when I withdraw this money, I'll have to pay tax on it as if it was income. At the time of making this video, this account had another $11,750 in it, which is almost all from company contributions.
Part 4. Reality check. So between cash, personal investments, a Roth 401k, a Roth IRA, and a traditional 401k, I have about $63,500 as I turn 23. And that means I finally get to answer the big question. Am I on track to retire by 30? There are a few ways to calculate this, but while there's a long list of free online retirement calculators, I don't use any of them. I even made an entire video about why these calculators are so useless, so we're going to have to do it ourselves. A simple way to check is just to divide how much more money you need to save for retirement by how many years left before your target retirement age. For example, I wanted to reach financial freedom within just 8 years of starting my career, and I'm just 1 year into that journey. When I divide $500,000 by 8, I see that my wealth needs to increase by $62,500 every single year if I want to reach financial freedom by 30. And 1 year into my journey, my net worth is $63,500, which means I'm on track. That's actually a super good sign because this method is actually a pretty pessimistic way of checking whether you're still on track to retire. That's because it ignores two super important factors: investment growth and career advancement. Investments grow exponentially, which means your investment returns should be making more money in the later years of your career than in the beginning, when you're just getting started. And since I'm still early in my career, I'm hoping that my salary will still increase significantly before I turn 30 years old. This method ignores both of those factors, so the fact that it still shows me on track to retire by 30 is an incredibly good sign. But if you want to take into account more realistic investment projections, you can use a simple calculator just like this one. By entering in how much money you save every month, the number of years before you reach financial freedom, and your expected investment returns, you can get a better sense of how your money might grow over time. And if you want to factor in an increase in your earnings, all you have to do is break this projection up into multiple stages. Just take the end result of the initial stage and put it in as the initial value of the next stage. Using this more precise method, things are looking even better for me. I have $63,500 now, and I'm currently saving about $5,500 a month. And once I turn 25, I'm hoping I'll be able to save $6,000 a month. If I can earn a 7% inflation-adjusted return on my investments, I would have $707,635.34 by the time I turn 30 years old, which is way more than I think I would need.
Part 5. Are you sure? Now, before I finish this video, I think there are two really important questions that need to be addressed. See, these projections are built off of my current expenses, but these might change. Perhaps they'll increase, not just with inflation, but with other lifestyle changes. If I bought a car or moved to a nicer apartment, it could radically change my expenses. At the same time, I live in one of the most expensive areas of the world. If I did want to retire as fast as possible, I would almost certainly move to a cheaper part of the nation, or maybe a cheaper part of the world. That could make a huge difference on my expenses. But I don't know what life after 30 looks like yet. And maybe an even more important question is whether I'll retire at all. I've wanted to reach financial freedom as fast as possible ever since I first discovered the movement in high school. But I still don't know if I actually will retire by 30. There are a lot of options, and I don't know which path I'll follow. What I do know is that no matter what the 30-year-old version of me chooses to do, he'll appreciate having the financial freedom and flexibility to do whatever he wants. That's why I'm working so hard now as a 23-year-old. I'm hoping that in 7 years from now, I have the wisdom to make the right decision.
And before I let you go, I wanted to point out that the reason I'm on track to retire by 30 years old is because I've been living extremely frugally. And next week, I have a video coming out comparing my expenses to the average American, which you can find right here. And if that video isn't linked yet, it probably means you need to hit the subscribe button and maybe even the notification bell so that you don't miss it when it does release. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.